Let's take a look at replacement magnesium. So we have a dose. Now, typically, magnesium, I see it more in 200, 250 now, but for a number of years, we used to have it diluted out into 500 mLs. To be infused at a rate not to exceed 3 milliliters a minute. Now, one of the things I want to help you to do is learn to translate. Don't let some of these things throw you off. Learn to find out AKA, also known as. How can I translate that to make that make more sense? 3 mLs a minute is the same as how much an hour, or 60 minutes. How do I get there? How do I make minutes into hours? How many minutes in an hour? How many minutes in an hour? 60. So if I multiply this on the right-hand side by 60, that's an hour. I have to multiply this side. So that means it's what? 180. 180 an hour. It's the same language. You're going to run into calculations where they do so many mLs a minute, and anxiety shoots up with students. Learn to calm yourself and translate it into hours, just so you can look at it in a variety of ways. 180 an hour is the same as 3 mLs a minute. However, it says the pharmacy recommends a rate of 125. So what am I going to do? Am I going to use the faster rate of 180, or am I going to use the slower rate of 125? If my pharmacy says, Darla, use 125, what am I going to use? I use 125. So it turned out to be extra information, didn't it? We do that. We put extra information in. Learn not to let it get to you. Learn to target the information you need. Learn to translate it in a way where you can calm yourself. So, how long will it take for the infusion to run? What is that? It's an hourly rate question. We did our hourly rates, total amount over total time. So let's do that. What's the total amount? 400. 500. Over what kind of time? What's my hourly rate? $125 an hour. What's my answer? 4. So it's going to be 4 hours for that to run. Okay? Because I'm running at 125 per hour. That's the answer. That was just an hourly rate. Total amount over my total time. Well, my total time is 4 hours, but I know the hourly rate, so I can calculate how much time it's going to take. How much magnesium is the client receiving per hour if infused at 125 an hour? I've got 4 grams. How long is it going to take for this to infuse? How many hours? 4 hours. So my total amount is how much magnesium do I have? How much magnesium total do I have? I have 4 grams. My total amount, how long is it going to take me to infuse? 4 hours. How much per hour is going to infuse? 1 gram. I'm still taking my total amount, I'm dividing by my total time, 4 hours, and that says a gram an hour. But that makes sense. Even I count it out. an hour, an hour, an hour, an hour. Okay, it's going to take 4 hours. The 4 grams of diluted magnesium in 500 D5 is not to exceed an infusion rate of 3 mils a minute. We're not fooled by that. That's saying 180 an hour. This means that the hourly rate of magnesium fusion should not exceed what hourly rate? 180 an hour. Right. I'm going to run it at 125 because the pharmacy recommends 125. That's my... Pharmacy tells me to do that. That's what I'm going to do. That's the recommended rate. Does this make sense? Now, our testing doesn't include all these. It doesn't. But we might give you an example and ask you one question. What's the hourly rate? Okay. How long is this going to take to infuse? Remember, with our hourly rates, total amount over total time gives me my hourly rate. Total amount over my time gives me the hourly rate. I invert these two. Okay, let's do the next one, potassium. So I have potassium added to an IV. It's not to exceed 40 milliequivalents. The rate of flow should not exceed 20 milliequivalents per hour. A client has a liter of D5NS with 20 of K. Let's interpret that. We're running it at 100 an hour. So what's in that IV bag? Let's see. Where did I stop? It's not it. What's in that bag? Oh, so we have how much dextrose? Very good. What's it say? It tells you. 5%. How many calories is that, Caitlin? What do we say about calories at D5? You're making this too hard. If I'm running dextrose 5%, there's 200 calories in the bag. So, how many calories in the bag? 200. That's it. What else is in that bag, Hallie? Saline. So sodium chloride. Okay? What else is in that bag? Potassium. How much? 20 milliequivalents. What's our rate not to exceed of potassium? Okay, when we give replacement potassium, we're not to exceed 20, how fast? Per hour. How much is in the entire bag? 20. Can you possibly exceed the recommended rate? You can't. You only got 20 in the bag. If you gave the entire bag, by the way, which would be too much fluid. Then you but you wouldn't exceed the potassium rate. You could exceed the fluid replacement, but you wouldn't exceed the potassium rate. When we see, these are common. This is a D5, a half NS, D5NS is a common IV. They put a pinch of potassium in. Why, Maza? Why would they put a pinch of potassium in our IV bags? Take a guess. I want you to use your thinking cap. What's a concern about potassium that we have? Well, do we want to get too low in our bodies? No. If we're getting IVs, could we get too low in our bodies? We could. Why do they put a pinch of potassium in our IVs? To keep the potassium level stable so we don't get too low. That's why. 20 milliequivalents isn't that much. And by the way, if it's running at 100 an hour, how long is it going to take that bag to infuse? Help me out. Now, how do we calculate our hourly rates? Total amount, which is what? 1,000. Over our time, which is 100, how many hours? How many hours, Rob? I think when we did calculations.
100 milliliters per hour.
Total amount over total time? 100 now. What?
So 10 hours?
Oh. 100 an hour. 10 hours. Okay. Is there any way we can infuse this where it's going to exceed our recommended rate? No. Let's figure out the hourly rate of the potassium. What's our total amount of potassium in the bag? 20. What's our hourly rate of the bag? 10. How much are we getting per hour? 2 milliequivalents. That's not even close to 20, is it? It's just a little dab so we don't get hypokalemic. That's why. But you don't see many IV bags without potassium just because if we give replacement fluids, we can wind up with low potassium and we don't want to go there. So it's very common to see B5.5. Or if we run an IV, we'll switch to a couple of days so that we don't get potassium completely. But we could run the entire bag, exceed the fluid rate, but not exceed the potassium guideline. How long will it take to infuse the IV? 10 hours. What's the hourly rate of potassium? It's still the hourly rate. I take my total amount of potassium, 20. My total amount of hours to infuse, 10. And it's 2 hours. Or 2 milligrams of potassium per hour. Does it exceed the recommended rate? Not at all. Not even close. Not even close. You could infuse the whole bag and not touch the exceeding the rate of potassium. You will exceed the fluid replacement. Don't do that. But you won't exceed the potassium. Okay. Those are exercises devised to help you think and process. Yes, Rob?
So that being a supplement, a diluted supplement, is that exceed the 40 MEQ?
Help me understand.
The first line, it says dilution potassium supplements added to it.
Yeah, what they do, typically when they're going to dilute, they don't want too much potassium in a bag because if it would get out of control, it could deliver too much and they could wind up in cardiac arrest. So sometimes when we're doing replacements, they're careful about, well, now we're only going to put this much in a bag and replace it over this amount of time. We don't want it too heavy because then if that got out of control, we could wind up with cardiac arrest. So there's some guidelines on that. I hadn't
seen the 40 before. I had seen the 20.
It's the dilution in the replacement. And typically when we're doing a potassium replacement, they're on a monitor. So we can check for arrhythmias. I don't really go there a whole lot. You'll get that in terms of some of your sequence, MedSearch 2 and 3. If you can remember not to exceed 20 an hour, I'm a happy camper. Other questions that you have? So anticipate doing some calculations. Any other questions that you have? Well, we're done for the day. Don't need to beat a dead horse. We've covered content. I would encourage you, I would like to have feedback on the V-cents. This would be a good day to do some V-cents. I do some practice calculations. You might get rid of your notes. Go back and see if you can figure this stuff out.